This is Democracy Watch. Marc, we have a major update on this ongoing saga between Donald Trump's hand-picked U.S. attorney in New Jersey, Alina Habba. Obviously was on Donald Trump's personal criminal defense team prior to him becoming president. He tried to install her as U.S. attorney in New Jersey. It was rejected by judges. Now we have a brand new update. Can you explain what just happened?
Yeah, this is a blockbuster that could shake the foundations of criminal prosecutions, not only in New Jersey, but potentially in districts around the country. So Donald Trump's administration, in order to evade a time limit, there's a time limit for how long his temporary acting people can be in office. To avoid that with the U.S. attorneys, he has been appointing them or having the Department of Justice having Pam Bondi appoint them essentially special counsel within the office, and then elevating them through sort of the career ranks into this position. Well, in New Jersey, it worked a little bit differently, because in New Jersey, when her time came up, Donald Trump wanted her to stay, but the judges, as you say, in New Jersey said, no, you are no longer the acting U.S. attorney. We are selecting a different person. We are selecting the career first assistant U.S. attorney and making her the acting U.S. attorney. Well, what Pam Bondi did was then fire this person and then use this maneuver to try to push Alina Haba up through this special counsel position to be the acting U.S. attorney. Well, a federal judge in New Jersey said, nope, you can't do that. It doesn't work. Alina Habba is out. Now, why is this such a big deal? For two reasons. Number one, there are a number of people who have been indicted under the theory that Alina Habba is the U.S. attorney, right? Her name has been on pleadings. Her name had been on motions. Her name had been opposing bail applications, right? She's been acting, not acting in the legal sense, but acting in the the kind of thing you guys do out in Hollywood there.
Cosplaying.
As if she is the U.S. attorney.
Yeah.
And she's not. So that casts doubt on whether any of that action is legal.
Yeah.
Or whether all of that now has to be undone, whether all of that is null and void. And what does that do for the administration of the criminal justice system in New Jersey? But here's the thing, Brian, this maneuver, this sleight of hand that they've tried to pull off, it's not only in New Jersey. They've been trying to pull this sleight of hand off in other places around the country where they're trying to get this done. So yes, this case, I know you're going to ask because you always ask me about precedent. Yes, this case only involves Alina Habba in the District of New Jersey. It's not a court of appeals. It's not the Supreme Court. This case is going to rock it up, and we're going to see what happens there. But certainly it roadmaps for criminal defendants, because this case was brought by a criminal defendant who says, hey, I was told I've been charged by this woman. This woman's not even anyone. She's just like
right.
A private citizen. She can't charge me. Well, this is going to open up that avenue of attack other places in the country. So this is an enormous deal that everyone needs to be paying attention to. And Brian, I'm glad that you and I are among the very first to be calling people's attention to this issue.
And to that point, I mean, the reality is we're barely seeing this stuff anywhere. And so highly recommend for those who are looking for good journalism that actually meets this moment with the urgency that it deserves, highly recommend that you subscribe to Marc's YouTube channel, Democracy Docket. This way you can amplify his voice and make sure that his team gets the support they need as they fight this thing, not only in the media, but also in the front lines, in the courts where it actually matters. So I'm going to put the link to his channel on the screen. And if you're not subscribed to both channels, please make sure to subscribe and support independent media. Marc, it's worth asking here, what is the why do judges have the opportunity to approve or reject U.S. attorneys? The whole process seems a little bit opaque to me. So can you kind of explain why they have the ability to do this?
Yeah, so this is actually a federal law that says that when there is a vacancy, because remember, she was appointed on an acting basis, but that could only last, I think it was 120 days.
Yeah.
And so at the end of it, now there's a vacancy, and the judges under this federal law can fill a vacancy where it exists for U.S. attorney by vote-in. And so the judges on the District Court of New Jersey that are part of whatever committee it is that chooses U.S. attorneys, they voted. And what's interesting is that in normal times, you'd think, well, if there was a qualified acting U.S. attorney, for continuity's sake, they would just keep with that person.
Yeah.
But of course, Alina Habba is not a qualified person. Right. She was literally the general counsel to a parking garage company and then became Donald Trump's personal lawyer.
Yeah.
So like the judges were like, oh, come on. Like, this is who you want us to have, right? Like, how about we pick a career person, which is usually who in between administrations you have. Normally, if you're Donald Trump, you say, okay, I'm nominating Alina Habba to be the permanent U.S. attorney in New Jersey. But in the meantime, it'll fall to whatever the career senior person is as a caretaker. But Donald Trump didn't do that. He banked that he'd be able to pull this sleight of hand, and now it's been rejected, and he is in a world of hurt. I mean, they are in an absolute crisis right now in the Department of Justice. I promise you, I know very well how this all plays out. Right now, there are a lot of panicked lawyers, both in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, who don't know whether their indictments stand, and there are or whether their motions, where that stands. And there are a bunch of panicked Republican appointees in Washington, D.C. trying to figure out what to do next, because this is a big mess for them.
Marc, doesn't this also undermine public safety? Because now you have all of these, prosecutions that are immediately put at risk. If you've got some actual dangerous folks out there who were prosecuted under, I guess, like improper pretenses because Alina Haba was not supposed to be the one prosecuting these cases and she decided that she needed to through extrajudicial means, then doesn't this kind of put everybody at risk? Because now you might have a situation where, thanks to the law and order president, you've got criminals going free because this whole process was played out improperly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is going to cause a lot of chaos. And it's going to cause a lot of chaos in the place you don't want chaos, which is the criminal docket in federal court.
Yeah.
Right? This is going to affect exactly what you said. These are going to affect the pending criminal cases that are in the District of New Jersey. So while Donald Trump is, doing his ride-alongs and acting tough, by the way, they act tough, but you ever notice that like Pete Hegseth and JD Vance, like they're afraid to walk out onto the street outside of the train station? Like, aren't these the tough guys?
It's amazing to see, because on one hand, these are the alphas, right? They keep telling us how tough they are, how they're the real men are finally back in Washington. But then from the same people, you hear about they're too afraid to walk out into the streets of DC. They're too afraid to walk out in California, in New York. Everything is like walking out their front door, walking off the stoop, off their front porch is apparently too scary for these guys who at the same time are on Fox News doing push-ups and pull-ups on a daily basis.
Yeah, I feel like if the next time you come to DC, you and I ought to just do a walking tour of places that
That's right.
Vance is afraid to walk.
Yeah.
We could walk outside of Union Station. We can walk outside the White House. We could walk outside the Capitol. All the places that they say are too dangerous, you and I could go and show that it's perfectly safe. And we're in this just because this teenage dweeb big balls got beat up. This is just unbelievable.
That was the
but in the meantime, there's real crime going on in New Jersey. And those people, as you say, are now going to take advantage of exactly this issue, of exactly this question, which is, if you are a hardened criminal who was engaged in hardcore crime, you're now filing a motion saying, hey, my case needs to be dismissed. Hey, my bail application was improperly opposed. Hey, this motion that was filed by the government against for evidence, that against what we filed for evidence, that's invalid. So we should win. This is a really, really big deal. If you care about law and order, this is a calamity. And here's the thing. The hypocrisy of them simultaneously saying they care about law and order, jeopardizing law and order as a result of this. That's what their defense is going to be. They're not going to go to the Court of Appeals and say, well, you can't uphold this, Your Honor, because look, it's going to create all of this mayhem. But who created it? Donald Trump.
Marc, you said something that I think is really telling, and that is, if you care about law and order, and the reality is that this administration doesn't care about law and order, Trump mostly just cares about installing his supplicants into these positions. And so in a sense, I get where you're coming from, and this is a position of rationality and logic, but for the administration, it's not about that. It's not about law and order. think about it. If any of this was about law and order, they wouldn't start in Los Angeles and DC. They would go to Memphis, Tennessee. They would go to Little Rock, Arkansas. They would go to any of these places that are in Republican states that have higher crime rates per capita than LA and DC, but they won't because this is about politics. And so in this case, it's not about law and order. This is about putting Alina Habba in a position of power because she is a Trump loyalist. And that, at the end of the day, is really what this administration cares about. And so I think that they're perfectly willing to risk nullifying these prosecutions that have occurred while Alina Habba is improperly sitting in this position, because it's not about that. It is about imposing their will, staffing these positions with people who are loyal to Donald Trump, and kind of the downstream effects be damned, because their top priority is just making sure that the Trump supplicants get what they need.
That's exactly right. And I also think that they understand that if they don't have the Alina Habbas of the world, then they can't bring political prosecutions. And remember, New Jersey is the site of one of the big political prosecutions. They are prosecuting a Democratic member of Congress, LaMonica MacGyver. I had her on my YouTube channel on an interview. She has been indicted for doing her job. She got indicted because she decided she wanted to visit an ICE detention facility, which, by the way, is guaranteed in federal law that members of Congress can do that on an unannounced basis. And they have charged her criminally with felonies for this. And they know that if Alina Habba is not there to do their bidding, perhaps this case doesn't go forward at all. Maybe it gets dismissed, or maybe the prosecutors take another look at what happened here and at least give a fair shot. And they can't have that. Donald Trump can't afford to suffer that embarrassment. And that is, to them, more important than the safety of the citizens of New Jersey, the safety of the citizens of LA or New York or DC or any of these others. They are first and foremost about achieving their political grandstanding and political prosecutions.
Well, look, Marc, you're doing what the legacy media is failing to do, which is to call all of this out in a clear-eyed manner. So for everybody watching right now, to elevate Marc's voice and the voice of his team, not just online, but also in the courts where it matters most, a small step that we can all take is to subscribe to his YouTube channel, Democracy Docket. I'm going to put the link right here on the screen. I'll also put the link to my channel on the screen. Both of them are completely free to subscribe to, a great way to support our work and a great way to support independent media more broadly. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.